Welcome to the Silicon Slopes podcast. My name is Ryan Boswell, joined today by Will Debord. Will, how you doing?
Good. How's it going, everybody? Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's great. So just a little background. Will is the managing director for SneakerCon, one of the founding members. Will, why don't you give us a little background, tell us about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Queens. Went to Syracuse University back in like 2005 to 2011. Studied design, transferred majors a couple times, couldn't really find my career path or what I wanted to do, but explored all the classes and the skills I learned in college. And when I came out, instead of like applying for, a cubicle job in some corp and trying to make my way up the ladder, I decided to join the SneakerCon founding team and start the events and explore that. So, it's been 13 years traveling the world, bringing sneaker culture and resale culture, collectible culture to all these new markets. A few weeks ago, we did our first one in Salt Lake City, and it was massive. It was 5,000 people came out. People drove from all rural areas, from Vegas, from just so many places that you think Utah's in the middle of nowhere, but lo and behold, through social media, Instagram, and all that, like people found out, and we had a really strong showing. And it's just evolved. We started off as a place for kids, people to just meet and buy and sell, trade these shoes that were hard to access. You needed to buy them on eBay or online somewhere. So we just wanted a place for people to meet, and it's evolved into this platform for entrepreneurship. You have kids that start their own T-shirt brands. People like John Stan starting a hat line, and now our fashion designers, resellers who went from 2 pairs of shoes walking around the event to having a table, to having their own resale shop in the middle of Tennessee. Like, we've just seen so many of these stories, and that's what drives us, is really continuing to evolve and scale our platform to allow for even more people, more kids around the world to have that outlet to create their own career path, like myself, right? Like, I didn't take the path of least resistance. I took the most resistance, took the most risk, and, I'm here today, so just blessed all around.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited to get in kind of the nitty gritty, learn a little bit more about your experience. So, the first thing that comes to mind, I'm curious when, as you joined the team over at SneakerCon, were you there for the first event that they did?
Okay. In 2009, it was in the hallway of a comedy club in Times Square.
Oh my goodness.
We had 20 vendors with collections, and it was hard to get 20 vendors. We were charging $100 for the table. Guys didn't even want to pay, let alone pay it. We were giving some away for free, and they didn't want to take their 100 shoes from their basement in Brooklyn and drive to the city and set up a table. Like, they had no idea why they should be doing that. And lo and behold, we got 20 guys locked in. It was an amazing event. We had like 800 people come out, and from there it just snowballed. People, the word of mouth, right? Like, the community started talking about this event that happened, and they were just looking for when the next one was. You had people with FOMO, like fear of missing out. And next thing you know, the next one was bigger and bigger. Then we went out to Washington, D.C., and we thought like sneaker culture was only in New York. Resale culture was only in New York. But when we went to D.C., we had a bigger event than our New York event. Then we started traveling Miami, Chicago, L.A., and
you realize everyone loves it.
Yeah, and there was a need for us to kind of pave the way and show them how it's done. Yeah. Because like New York, we grow up jaded. Like we all have this hustle and bustle mentality, grind, But when we went out to LA, like nobody brought shoes to trade. People just came to buy and see what was there. A couple people sitting on the floor, just like, spotty. The trading pit was like spotty, and not too many vendors. So we figured like we need to have one, let those vendors experience the success, and then next year it'll be bigger and bigger and bigger. And every city we've done it. I mean, we've done Chicago 7-8 times, LA 7-8 times, New York a bunch of times, and it just keeps growing in each individual city. So next year, Salt Lake City is going to be double the size, double the vendors, double the people. It's going to keep growing. So that's why we do it, is just to keep paving the way and showing people how we do it. Like, what's the SneakerCon way? What's the SneakerCon community like? Because you could be a sneakerhead, but not be a part of the SneakerCon community. But once you're a part of our community, like it just hits into a different gear. Like you start thinking about, what can I do here? What kind of business can I start? And that's really the culture we're trying to inspire.
I feel like you guys have done a really good job of, not necessarily trying to own the market, but you give a place for people to belong, right? People, regardless of, they can be sneaker agnostic. They don't really care who it is or who owns it or where they're at. Like, sneakers are sneakers.
Yep.
People love talking about it, and something that people are passionate about. So what, from that very first event, you had 20 vendors, you were in the hallway of a comedy club. You probably had 100, 200 people that showed up for the event, right?
It was 800.
800 in that little hallway.
Well, it was New York. Yeah, it was New York. So.
Oh my goodness. I'm picturing like a little hallway like the one that we just stepped out of.
It was a small L shape, and man,
800 people.
It got packed in there, and it was like the line was around the block. It went all the way down to like Port Authority, and man, it was all day.
Talk about validation.
In and out. Yeah, it was in and out. People were just in and out all day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that first experience had to have been pretty cool, right? You're there and you're like, man, we can't fill these booths. We can't get people. You're practically giving them away.
Yep.
And to open up, right? And you probably look out the door and you're just like, this is all the way around the corner. We got 800 people here.
It was funny because I got off a Greyhound from Syracuse with 2 huge duffel bags, and I'm like, I'm home for the weekend, and I didn't know what to expect, and I couldn't find it. The venue was like an upstairs back alley entrance to this comedy club. But when I saw a line of all people just wearing sneakers, I just followed the line, and I was like, this is insane. And story's history.
And that was the
there.
start.
Yeah.
So what does your progression in the SneakerCon organization look like, right? You were the first full-time employee that was hired onto the payroll, right?
Yep.
So you came on, you're one of the founding members. What does that progression look like over the past 13 years to become managing director?
I mean, I've done it all. The reason I can be managing director is because there's not a task I haven't been a part of, from creative design of our branding and our merchandising to this day, I lay down the floor plans, where all the decor goes, where all the booths go, how the traffic is going to flow. All of those things I still touch. And now we've hired other production managers that I can kind of guide and oversee. But I started off reselling. I was doing photography for our resale e-commerce site. I was getting to touch all these shoes. I was photographing them, great detail shots for our site. Writing descriptions for our website, so going back to the history of the shoes and what the players did when they wore them, and everything from Bo Jackson to Andre Agassi and on all that. So I was doing photography, so I was getting to touch all these shoes. And what I realized was that a lot of people don't get to touch these really expensive, a lot of one-of-one stuff, samples. And what it did was it gave me an innate feeling and touch for what's authentic, because I was able to touch the authentic products. So that led to, in 2013, we instated SneakerCon Authenticated, which was a service we provided at our events, free authentication service where we would legit check people's shoes and tag them with like a gold dog tag. Fast forward 4 years, these dog tags are everywhere. People always want to come to SneakerCon, get their shoes authenticated. And in 2015, we had approached eBay like, you guys should be doing authentication on your platform. Went over everybody's head. They were just like, yeah, whatever. Like, we've never got in between the logistics of transactions on the platform. But in 2015, a company by the name of StockX launches, and they start doing that just for shoes. So they created that model, and a lot of other people in the industry also followed suit. Next thing you know, one of the top execs from eBay goes over to StockX, and next thing you know, they want to be doing this, providing the same service and bringing the sneaker market back onto eBay. So in 2020, they approached us to, let me rewind. In 2018, we launched a new tag, which I have on my shoes, a legit tag. There's an NFC chip in there. You can tap it. It tells you all the information, when it was authenticated, what shoe it is, what size, if it was used or not, and things like that. So all of that, and we launched our own marketplace in 2018, the SneakerCon app. 2020, eBay approaches us and says, can you do this to scale? And we said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, all it takes is education, like the education that we have. All the shoes Will has touched, the learnings that we've had over the past 7 years. We can put that in a handbook. We can create an operation of how to do this to scale. So we launched the first eBay Authenticity Guarantee warehouse in New York, hired 100 employees in a month, and launched that warehouse within a year. There was a warehouse in Las Vegas, Toronto, London, Germany, and Sydney, Australia. And last year, they acquired the entire operation from us, and now they're running it. They've authenticated over 2 million pairs on the platform. And our SneakerCon legit tag is now the eBay authenticity guarantee tag. They own that, and they've distributed over 2 million of our tags
Wow.
across their platform, and they're providing an amazing service for free to all the users who trade sneakers on their platform. So that's just something we did during COVID when we weren't allowed to do physical events, which just kind of gave the credibility that we know what we're doing when it comes to sneakers and
Yeah.
business. And now I'm here and talking Web3 and community at Silicon Slopes. So it's been a journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when you're in a startup, you really have to be able to fill the gaps, do whatever task is necessary to help the business. So that's what I always was, just kind of disposable to learn. If I had to go on YouTube and take a tutorial on, After Effects just to like edit some content and shoot it, I would do that.
Yeah.
So I've really touched all different departments and helped our company develop our brand. So now when we're scaling and hiring people, I can manage and direct them.
So there's three things that I want to recap just from what you've shared in the
Sure.
last couple minutes, right? One, you may be the managing director, and there are some organizations and businesses where someone in your position just delegates, right? And says, this is what needs to be done. I hired the right people, right? Which is good. It's
Yep.
good for efficiency. But you also have been involved and been there since day one. And you're able to be so effective in training people that you are involved at every stage and every level, right? Like
Yep.
you may not be the person that's executing everything 100%, but you know where the layouts are. You know what customers you need to take care of. You've got multiple customers that are excited to be at this event. And over the past 13 years, you've built this community that as soon as they hear that SneakerCon's coming, they buy their tickets,
Yep.
right? As soon as I heard that SneakerCon was coming to Salt Lake, you guys came about 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks?
3 weeks
Yeah,
ago?
3 weeks ago, right? As soon as all of my friends that are in sneakers are pinging me, they're like, hey, let's go SneakerCon, let's go SneakerCon. I've got a buddy that, runs an online sneaker shop. And I think that was the first time that they had the chance to do sneaker sales in person. And it's
Awesome.
just like all of these people are coming together on this similar vision and appreciation of this community that you guys have built. So one thing that I'm interested in learning is how have you, one, stayed centered and focused on knowing that sneakers is like at the core and at the center of what you guys do? How have you developed this community that is just ecstatic about anything that you guys do in person, online, all over the place?
Yeah. Well, it's really just been being accountable to that community and always trying to deliver bigger and better. So for our vendors, trying to bring out more people so they make more sales, and the competition, we can increase the number of vendors at our events and grow the event, but it's not going to hurt their business at the event because we put it on ourselves to bring out even bigger audience, to market, to put more dollars into marketing to ensure that they all do well. That's number one. If our vendors travel, if they drive from Florida to Salt Lake for an event that's a first time in Salt Lake and they're taking that risk, we need to make sure they get their return on their investment, on their time, on the shoes they bring out and the collections, and they make the sales. So that's number one. Number two, for our attendees, like, we need to make sure that people come to the event, they find what they're looking for, and they also discover things that they didn't expect to find. Because those are the things that you really remember. Like if you came to buy, the Travis Scott ones, 30 vendors had it, and you went and found the best price, yeah, you're happy about that. You're like, yeah, I bought it for 10% below what it would cost me
Market
if I
rate,
ordered
yeah.
it online,
Yeah.
right? But that's not enough. Like, because years from now, somebody's gonna be like, you went to SneakerCon? Yeah. I forget what shoe I bought. It was cool. Like, yeah, it was a cool event. No, we want them to like really remember a pivotal moment during that day. That $30 paid for, it could have been 1,000. They would have still paid it because of, they got to meet John Stan and get their hat signed by him, or they made a relationship with a vendor and started their own resale shop in Salt Lake. Like, these stories of who you meet, who inspired you, that you can go back and tell. Maybe one of the kids at Salt Lake SneakerCon 10 years from now is on the stage speaking at Silicon Slopes, and he's able to talk about that story, that moment. So for our attendees, we need to figure out new ways to create those moments. And whether it's, we bring out a basketball court and do some street ball activation, and they get to meet the guy who's been shooting half court shots on Instagram all throughout COVID. Like, we just want to keep creating those moments. So in Dallas next month, we're bringing out Ric Flair, which is like,
Amazing.
what?
Amazing.
But we just keep trying to push the envelope and push it beyond sneakers now, to just bring out new people, but introduce them to this energy of entrepreneurship that has cultivated at our events. So it's really just challenging ourselves, and then also leading by example. You know, you go to SneakerCon and you're checking in as a vendor. It's one of the founders checking you in. Like, you don't even know that. Like, Alan's at the door just checking you in. He's a founder of the company. Me, Will, managing director, like, I'm hauling tables across the floor. Like, just because it needs to get done, it needs to get done fast.
If not
You
me,
know,
then who? If not now, then
yeah,
when,
if I got to make a
right?
call on the walkie, hey, one of you guys come over, move 2 tables over to this booth, or Nesquik or eBay or Monster Energy. It took us 10 years to book some of these sponsors. Like, no one wanted to sponsor a secondary market event for sneakers. They just didn't get it. So when it comes to our brand partners, like, we really make sure we deliver for them. And if 2 tables need to get moved, and it's Will that's right there on the spot, I'm gonna lift those tables and move them across, whatever it is. So our vendors see that. They're like, oh, Will never stops, never stops. Look at him hauling tables. But meanwhile, I'm managing director working on business development and building brand partnerships. So it's just nothing is beneath us, you
Yeah.
know, and leading by that example, like, it inspires people. So that's the thing. That's how we do it.
I love it. So you guys, internally you have three communities, right? You have your customers that are your attendees, which are actually attending the conference.
Yep.
You have your vendors, which are the individual vendors that are vending. Yeah, that's what a vendor is, right?
Yeah,
So, you have the experience that you're building for them, and then you also have your internal community, right? Your staff, making sure that they're on track and that they're excited about what you guys are delivering, right? Because if one person isn't feeling good on a given day, or if they're not excited, that can benefit, or that can detract from the energy of the entire team. So, what you mentioned, and you have a specific way that you've built these communities. So you're focused on creating individual moments, like you said, for your attendees and for your vendors, right? Making sure that they have an experience that when they walk away from SneakerCon, that was a memorable experience that they'll never forget, right? Like ordering sneakers in the mail, or if you buy something off Nike.com, or like, maybe you've gotten some drops off the sneakers app, like it kind of gets repetitive after a little bit, right?
It's watered down.
Exactly. It's watered down. You're not used to, you're used to it. You may not be excited about that experience. I never look forward to getting or receiving a package that I purchase on Amazon, right? But I do look forward to when I intentionally purchase, think about something and have a specific personal experience with that product, right? And that's what you guys are doing so well, is you're able to integrate with these communities that you've built, build one-on-one experiences for your internal community, the people that you work with, for your vendors, and for the 12-year-old kid that's, buying his first pair of Travis Scotts, first pair of Yeezys, right? And that's a monumental moment for all these people, so that when SneakerCon comes back next year, they've got 3 friends that are with them, right? And you just go from 5,000 to 15,000.
Exactly.
So, I think you've done an incredible job of cultivating this inspired community that cares and that's now excited because you've hooked them on something that they love and that so many other people love. And now, the other thing that you said is you keep your organization and yourselves accountable. So, accountability also drives directly hand in hand with the innovation that you guys have done. So tell me a little bit, just with the idea of where you came for having the initial authentication product. Tell me what that idea was like, what that think tank or that room was like when you guys were just like, we need to do this. We need to be authenticating. Yeah. So tell me about that in the product development cycle there.
Well, it's like any innovation or design, right? You have to solve problems. So there was a problem. We had a live marketplace. We can't check every box that comes in the doors. And we're inviting attendees to bring as many shoes as they can carry, because we know that the more shoes are in the building, the more that people will find, the more product there is to access at the event. So we don't limit. Like, as long as you can carry it, we don't want like people pushing carts and tripping over them, and it's safety issues. But if you can carry a stack that's 20 high and not fall, we invite it. So that's the one thing. So we couldn't police, people getting scammed at the events, and we still to this day we can't check every box that's in the building. But what we can do is offer free services and keep scaling that service. So for example, when we first started, it was one authenticator at a little table with a backdrop, and we were tagging the shoes and authenticating. Mm. Now we partner with eBay. They bring out 6 to 8 authenticators every event. You don't wait. You could do your whole collection, or 2 shoes or 3 shoes. So it's just scaling that to continue providing the service at the level that it needs to be, so that no one gets scammed at our shows, right? So it was really that problem and solving it by providing a free service. And then from there, it was just learning. The more shoes we touched, the more people's stories we heard. Hey, I bought this on this platform or that platform, or I met a guy, at Starbucks, and he ran off and I got this fake shoe. Um, all those stories gave us the leadway to the solutions that needed to happen. Then you had, other entities started putting tags on shoes too, like the StockX's of the world.
Yep.
Started putting this plastic tag with their logo, but there was nothing to that tag. I could go and produce those tags on Alibaba. There's really nothing there. It's just them saying this came through our warehouse. But now you got the fake manufacturers making shoes that come already with
With the tags
that
on it.
tag on it. So the SneakerCon dog tag alone was just like a really kind of bulky thing that we attached a wire, then broke the joint. So you couldn't really, you need a wire cutter to cut it off and put it on another shoe. And you need to do that the day of the event. But once people left at the event, they could do that and put it on a shoe. So we're like, there's a lot of problems to solve. How do we make it tamper proof, tamper evident? How do we make it secure? So that's when we went into NFC technology, put an NFC chip in it. It's the NFC chip is not just a random NFC chip we're ordering, from Asia. It's double encoded. So like, even if somebody made a fake chip and it led to a site that looked like the SneakerCon site, if you couldn't scan it from our iOS app, if you scanned it with our iOS app, which was the app to scan it from, it wouldn't lead to that site. So there was like software security, and then also the hardware security on our tag. And that's what, eBay was so bought in on, was just the security aspect, and also the wire. Not easy to produce. It was like a twined sort of alloy, with a custom rubber mold on it that if you cut it, like, you just couldn't retie it. It would be tamper evident. So you would know that somebody cut it and is trying to put it on another shoe. So there was a way of like seamlessly attaching it and winding it up. I mean, it was a product. It wasn't just like a hang tag that had our logo. It was a product we designed. There was a lot of thought process and versions and drafts of it and molds that we made, to the point where we made factory tooling to create these tags. It wasn't just a generic hang tag. So yeah, I mean, it was a journey just in product development and industrial design to create something that would change, the way shoes were verified. And then now you got Web3, blockchain, and NFTs to add to that technology. Right. The future's bright for when it comes to authentication.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, there's the actual verification aspect that comes with the service that you guys created, right? You saw a problem, you needed to solve it, and then you've innovated on top of it. The thing that I'm so interested in, right? Like card grading, for example, sports cards or Pokemon cards, right? We see AGS, who's a new grading company who does robo grading, right? They've got these scans of cards that they know what a perfect 10 or a 9 or an 8 or a 7 looks like. But PSA, BGS, it's all just by vision and knowing. And then from there, they use a little bit of technology in order to finish it off and top it off. But I think what's so interesting is your experience in your ability to be able to verify sneakers and their authenticity is you had to be in the trenches, right? And that's not something like you can't just Google and say what makes Yeezys official. Like, you can look for it, but unless you've actually unless you've handled and been in the trenches and know what it feels like, what it looks like, what it smells like, there's no way for you to be able to just pass that on and say, yep, that's good.
Yeah.
So how did you pass on that knowledge that had to be physical, right? Like you had to actually handle these products. How have you passed that on and been able to pass on that knowledge so that other people are able to verify to the same degree that you are?
Yeah. So I can't talk too much about the process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's intellectual, right?
Yeah, intellectual stuff. So, but I could just tell you that for us, like, number one, the reason we did it was for the community, right? So it started off just trying to provide a service, a free service. We were producing these tags, making them and giving them away for free. So that was number one. Number two was education. We created content, whereas other platforms that were providing authentication to their buyers, right, on their platform, were trying to hide it. They weren't trying to show the process. We were making content on our Instagram, how to tell the difference between this shoe and that shoe. But it always came down to the fundamental fact that you got to get your touches. So then we would invite people, come to a SneakerCon event where there's 200 pairs of these Travis Scotts that are super rare, and your local shop maybe only has 1 or 2 pairs. But you can go to SneakerCon, go to different vendor tables, see 100 vendors. You can go to their table and touch and feel a lot of different shoes. You will become an authenticator with the more touches you get. It's like becoming an NFL wide receiver, right? Or a golfer. The more practice, the more touches you get, the better you're going to be at it. So with authentication, that's really all it is. Just get your touches. So the way we passed it on was just having a really rigorous training where we allowed our authenticators to get as many touches as possible.
That's the perfect answer, right? It's like, in order to be able to, it's a method of reps, and it's a method of, training the muscle, right? And it's intuition is what it is.
Yep.
It's knowing what's real, what's not. And I think the greatest part about it is that you've trained your community, and not trained, but you've incentivized your community to trust what's real, right? And that incentivizes them to be active in the community, learning how they keep, the ecosystem that you guys have built and what's authentic as the most important part, right? Everyone can pick out fakes, everyone can pick out dupes, but the people that have, there's like this, you almost tie it to like self-worth, knowing that my shoes are legit. They've been legit checked. They've either got, they've got the SneakerCon NFC tag, they've got the StockX tag. Like if they're verified and I know that they're real, that adds to almost my persona as a member of this community, knowing that I'm a real contributor to this, right? So I love that you guys have opened it up to your community to be able to handle sneakers, get those touches, get those reps. So, Will, you guys have done an incredible job. I love watching all the buzz on social media. It's fun watching just how much information is constantly out there. Sneakers aren't going anywhere. It's something that everyone has. A lot of people don't understand the game, and a lot of people don't understand the market, but the people that do understand that there's an identity behind it, and you guys are enhancing that vision. So well done.
Thank you.
Well, where's the best place for us to connect with you on social media, and how do we stay in touch with you?
Yeah, it's on Instagram. It's Will Never Stops. Pretty simple.
And true.
Like yep. Yeah, exactly.
Bonus question, favorite pair of shoes. What do you got?
Oh man, this could go on for an hour. I'll just go with my first pair of Jordans. My first pair of like recognizably cool shoes were the Air Jordan 13 Flint Gray back in '99. My mom would never buy me anything like that, priced at that point. But my dad was like, "What do you want for your birthday?" And they had them on the shelf, and I was like, "I want those." And from there, rest is history.
Yeah. Well, Will, we appreciate you coming in. Thanks for being at Silicon Slopes. Everything that you've done for this community and for everything that you have building here in Salt Lake and nationwide and worldwide, honestly. Whatever we can do here in Silicon Slopes to support you, we're here. We appreciate you, and thanks for coming in.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Will.